what's up, everybody? This is Rob from Against Logic Racing, and today I'm going to talk about something I always hear questions about when anybody's talking about cars, and that's what's the difference between a turbocharger and a supercharger? Or I'll hear the argument, a supercharger is way better than a turbo, or a turbocharger is way better than a supercharger. And so I kind of want to give my thought on the whole situation, and maybe help some of you guys understand the benefits of, one or the other, and maybe even what's right for you and your car. So, first I'm going to start off with superchargers, and the way a supercharger works is it sits on top of the motor, or right in the path of the intake. And there's an impeller that compresses air. There's a couple different types, we won't get into that. If you're looking into doing superchargers, you can look up the different types between like the procharger or the scroll type, and there's a bunch of different ones. So, but basically, it runs off a belt that compresses the air, and that's how you get boost pressure. So instead of the engine sucking in air, you're getting, the supercharger or turbocharger. They both basically do the same thing, pushing air into the motor. The supercharger, like I said, is ran off a belt. And a lot of times you'll see superchargers more on V8s and muscle cars, and it's very simple. To run a supercharger, you actually have to sacrifice a little bit of torque off the motor because it is running off a belt. That's why using like lightweight pulley kits and lightweight flywheels adds horsepower, even if it's a little bit, because it's relieving that reciprocating motion that the engine has to continuously push. So if you're adding more to that, you're actually sacrificing a little bit. And when it's on the belt, it's running all the time. So you're sacrificing that immediate torque. But now, because of that it's running all the time, and you're sacrificing that immediate torque, you're adding immediate horsepower. Because the supercharger doesn't have any type of lag to it. Meaning that the compressor wheel doesn't have to spin up or get spinning because it's already spinning. The engine's already spinning it at all times. So you get a linear boost. The faster the engine revs, the more boost you get, and eventually you'll max out the supercharger belt and won't be able to spin any faster. That's why if you ever see anybody talking about, well, they have this type of pulley on their supercharger, it may be lightweight, but it also may be bigger or smaller to give it that different ratio to make it spin faster, therefore giving you more boost. Now, let's talk a little bit about turbochargers. Now, turbochargers sit both in the path of the exhaust and the intake. And the way a supercharger works is there's two different wheels. The exhaust spins one wheel. It's connected by a shaft that goes in between both wheels. Imagine my fist being one wheel, there being another wheel over here by my ear. So basically, the exhaust spins one impeller, which therefore spins the other impeller, compressing air. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I am driving, by the way. Probably not the safest thing to do, distracted driving, but I suppose it's better than texting since I can keep my eyes on the road. And I am driving an automatic, so I really only need one hand and one foot. Automatic for the handicapped driver. Alright, what was I talking about? Turbochargers. So you got the one wheel being spun by the exhaust, spinning the other wheel, which sits in the path of the airflow, and compresses the air, pushes it into the engine. Now, there's a cop right in front of me, son of a bitch. I better not be getting pulled over. Well, I am doing like 10 under, because he was going slow as fuck, so... No, just set up a speed trap. Alright, cool. So the benefit of a turbocharger is that it can spin as fast as the exhaust gas can push it. So depending on the wheel of your exhaust side, depending on the wheel of your compressor side, which is the air side or the cold side of the turbo, you may hear that, it can give you a lot more boost than what a supercharger can. Supercharger is restricted by how fast the motor can spin. The turbocharger is not. So since you get more boost, therefore you get more power. Now, there is a downside to this, and that's to get that power, the engine has to push the exhaust out to push that wheel. So you get what they'll call turbo lag, where it's taking that time to spin that compressor wheel and get some actual pressure behind it. Now, the reason why you'll see these on more smaller engines or on, the tuner cars or the imports is that their engines always rev a lot higher than the muscle cars do. Like the Civic I'm driving now. It does 7,000 RPM. You get into a Mustang or a Camaro and they may rev only to 5,000 or 6,000 RPM. Okay, so you've got that different RPM range. And now there are some of these smaller engines that'll even rev up to 9 and 10,000 RPM. So the higher the RPMs, the more boost you're going to get, therefore the more power you're going to get. You just have to get up to those RPMs to begin with. Which is why you'll see turbo cars do really well on a highway pull, because they're in their boost range, which is a lot higher than what a supercharger can put out. Now, not saying that you can't manipulate everything, because everything can be modified and everything can be manipulated, and you can get more power out of one than the other, or vice versa, because there's an infinite amount of things that you can do to a car to make it go faster. It's one of the things I love about cars. You just continuously find out new and interesting things. So, now, maybe some of you are asking about, like, why then would I see a turbocharger on a Mustang? Because I know so-and-so, he's got a turbo Mustang or turbo Camaro. And that's because the V8 guys finally figured something out. You put a massive turbo on the side of a V8, because even though a V8 may not be revving as high, it's still moving twice the amount of air that a 4-cylinder can. Therefore, you put a massive fucking turbo on it, and you're going to get massive boost at low RPMs, basically simulating a supercharger. Now, you may have some turbo lag, especially if you're running a big turbo, but that extra boost is all what it's about. Everything can be tuned to just the right way. Turbochargers, in my opinion, are just better, but like that would just be contradicting myself, because they're both beneficial, I should say, to an engine. Both provide boost instead of the engine having vacuum, therefore pushing more into the engine, getting more horsepower. So hopefully that's helped some of you guys figured out the difference between supercharger, turbocharger, and the little bit of the application for it. Tune in next week when I'm going to be talking about, I don't know, cars. Lots of them. Alright.